it's Amy Scott Grant. Welcome back. Nice to see you here. I've got another quick tip for you on using the Spiritual Ass Kickers Discovery Deck, right? And this is specifically about a red card called Miswiring. This is I'm going to say a little bit misunderstood, this card. Oh, it's okay. I love you. Yes, this is, and it's even like, in a way, it's almost like hard to look at, right? The design on it is like, woo, intense. And I did that intentionally, right? Because, I did all of these designs myself. I didn't hire someone out. I did them myself. And the description here is neural pathway flaw. Let me explain, okay? No, you're not a computer. I know that. You're not a machine. You're a person. However, you might argue that in some ways you are a computer. You are a machine, right? Because how else can you explain that at least once this week you probably drove home from somewhere, pulled in your driveway, and had no recollection of actually driving home, right? That's because of neural pathways, right? Unless you just moved, then you probably wouldn't started going to your old house by mistake. Damn it, turn around, go back, go to the new place, right? But really, that's because of neural pathways, okay? And neural pathways are kind of like, I'm not like a super outdoorsy person, but this is literally the best example I can give you. If you think about hiking trails, okay? I've been on a few in my life, not like a ton, but a few, right? The first person to blaze that trail, there's nothing. There's grass, there's brush, there's scrub, there's tree branches hanging in. There's absolutely no markings calling it a trail when it's not a trail. Think of that. And then in contrast, think of a well-worn, well-maintained trail. There might be a little bit of paint on the trees to keep you on the trail, but it's really the path that is made clear to you. You can see the path versus not the path, right? There's probably no grass on the path. It's either paved or it's like a packed dirt, right? And it's a certain width. It may get wider or narrower as you go, but you can see when you're on the path, when you're on the trail, and when you're not on the trail. Why can you see when you're on the trail? Because it's well worn. Because not one person walked on that trail, right? Probably hundreds or thousands or millions, depending on what kind of trail you're doing. And probably dogs and animals and like kids and all kinds of people, maybe even mountain bikes, have been on that trail. It's well worn. Think about neural pathways in your brain as working the same way, right? If you have a job every day, you drive to work or you drive to the train station, you take the train to work, you do your job, and at the end of the day, reverse that, right? You take the train home, drive home from the train station, or you drive home or you carpool or whatever. It's well worn in your mind. You don't stay at a job 2 years and on day, 820, you're like, do I go left or right here? I can't remember how to get to the office. Let me put the office in my GPS. No, right? After like a few weeks of doing something, it's that pathway is worn enough to where your brain can kind of go on autopilot. Like if you've been living in the same house or the same apartment for a year or two, you don't have to put it in the GPS when you're coming home from someplace you go often. If it's an unfamiliar neighborhood, yeah, well, like I do that all the time, right? I'm like, I don't know where I am. Home. Oh, okay, here's where I turn. But then once I'm on the highway, I can like totally check out and think about stuff, sing along with the radio, whatever. I don't need the GPS anymore. I know where to get home. I know if you live in California, it's a freeway, not a highway. But in Colorado, they're highways, and not just because pot's legal. That's just what we call them here. Okay. So what is miswiring? What does that mean? And I actually put neural pathway flaw. Now, it's not like a DNA flaw. It's not necessarily like a flaw that you were born with. In many cases, it's like a mistake that got repeated over and over and over. And so it's well worn. For example, if we go back to our hiking trail concept, let's say, and you'll see this happen, right? Like there's some kind of view or something, or there's a shortcut and people start wearing a shortcut. They start taking the shortcut. And so you can see the well-worn path, but then you can start to see like a little shortcut or a bypass or a cut around or whatever. And this happens too, like, you know, trees fall and stuff and things get blocked on the path. And so people can't necessarily always go over those obstacles. So sometimes they go around them and a new pathway starts to form. Works the same way in your brain. That's why if you want to shatter a pattern, you've got to do something different. It feels super weird. Like, what's the number one rule of hiking? Well, it's probably pack water. But the number two is like, don't get off the path. Because if you get off the path, you might never find your way back, right? So when you're hiking, you always stay on the path. Well, that's like how these neural pathway works. We just stay on the path, stay on the path, stay on the path. So when you do a pattern shatter, the first time you do something different, you're like, well, this feels weird and maybe even a little wrong. I don't know. It's like creepy. Okay. But then you can start developing a new neural pathway. So a miswiring is when two things are connected in your mind. There's a worn path between them that isn't serving you. And it's miswiring, okay? So let's say, here's one. Let's say that right now one of your goals is to be wealthy. But what if your parents like had distaste for or disdain for wealthy people? They may have even made a lot of comments about that when you were growing up. Like, well, we may not have a lot of money, but at least we can sleep at night. Or that guy's got so much money, you just know he's crooked as a, I don't know, which is tooth. I just made that up. I don't know a good crooked analogy that's clever, but if you gave me enough time, I'd come up with one, but these videos are supposed to be short. Anyway, so yeah, like maybe you heard a lot of negative stuff about wealthy people when you were growing up. That created a neural pathway in your brain that is flawed, right? Because there are people that do a lot of good things. There are people that do a lot of bad things, and there's everything in the middle. And how much money a person has doesn't have anything to do with any of that. But if you think, wait, is that true? I don't know if that's true. I can point out plenty of poor people that are doing super shitty stuff. So being broke doesn't make you a good person. Being rich doesn't make you a bad person. Neither does vice versa. But if something in your head is like, I don't know if that's true, then the miswiring card could come up because maybe you've got wealth wired to bad, wrong, nasty, evil, right? Something like that. So it is a flaw. It's a flawed, repetitive way of thinking. And it might not be anything that you're conscious of. That's why this card is so powerful when it comes up, because you might be like, wow, I have some kind of miswiring. I didn't even know I had miswiring about this. I thought I had like all my thoughts were congruent and aligned on this topic. No, you didn't think that because you wouldn't have a block if they were, right? But when the miswiring card comes up, it's telling you that it's time to retrain your brain in a different way. So the easiest way to fix that is with pattern shatter, like I was talking about earlier, but there's lots of other ways. So if you have this card come up and you're like, what the hell? I need to fix this. Reach out to me and let me know, and I'll be glad to help you clear it. But hopefully I've provided you with some more clarity around what it means when the miswiring card comes up in a discovery deck reading. And if you don't already know, the discovery deck is available in its entirety. Its fabulousness is available for you on Amazon. You can just go on Amazon.com and look up my name, Amy Scott Grant Adoy, and you'll find it. All right, I'll see you there. See you in the next video. Bye.